you think is going to win MLS Western Conference this season? Do you think it's going to be Houston Dynamo, Seattle Sounders, LAFC, or do you think that St. Louis will repeat as that number 1 seed there in the West? I'm here to tell you my teams that I think that will make the playoffs for the Western Conference. Coming in at that number 9 spot, this team finished last in the West last season at 5 wins, 17 losses, and 12 draws. You guessed it. I think the Colorado Rapid sneak into the playoffs with what they have done in this offseason so far, bringing in Zach Steffen as goalkeeper. As long as he can stay healthy, that is a huge plus for them. They also bring in Fernandez from the Red Bulls. I think that's a good add. But then they also bring in Mihalovic. That is a huge signing for Colorado, in my opinion. If he can do what he did his first span in MLS, that is going to be great for Colorado, and that's why I think they sneak into that number 9 spot. Next up, in that 8th position, this team did finish 9th last season in the Western Conference, just sneaking into the playoffs with a record of 10 wins, 11 losses, and 14 draws. And that is the San Jose Earthquakes. I think that they make it into the playoffs again. I think they come in at the 8th spot. I am fully on the train, even though San Jose did lose Cade Cowell here in the offseason. But I think that they brought in Morales from NYCFC, and I think that they'll bring in someone else to replace Cade. I know that Cade was a big part of San Jose, but I think that they'll get someone to replace him for the most part, and I think that they come in at that number 8 spot in the West. Now, moving on to that 7th spot, this team finished 13th last season with a record of 8 wins, 14 losses, and 12 draws, and that was the LA Galaxy. They had a rough season last year. They did lose the likes of Chicharito, but he was pretty much injured all season last year, so he did not play at all. And then they also lose the likes of Tyler Boyd. But I still think that now that all of the issues are over with and they can get back to it, I think the LA Galaxy have a pretty decent season this year, and they come in that number 7 spot. Now that takes us to that 6th spot there in the West. This team finished 8th last year with a record of 12, 14, and 8. They come in, win the wild card match, and then they upset number 1 seed St. Louis. That's, of course, Sporting Kansas City. They really haven't brought anybody in, haven't really lost anyone yet at the time of the making of this video, but they always fight. They always continue to fight, and I think that they do better than what they did last season, and I think as long as all their players can stay healthy, they will finish in that 6th spot with my prediction, maybe even a little bit higher, but right now we're going to put them at that 6th spot. Now we make it into the top 5, and I think that this team, they finished 7th last season with a record of 11, 10, and 13, and probably the second or maybe even first most boring team to watch. That is FC Dallas. I like FC Dallas because of Jesus Ferreira, Velasco. Those guys are awesome, and I think that they finish in this 5th spot because as long as they keep those guys. They also bring in the likes of Sully, and I think that he's a good attacker. He's going to help out down the wings, and that is something that I think Dallas is missing and they need. And hopefully he spices it up a little bit and makes it more fun for FC Dallas to watch, because I feel like they have been very boring to watch. But as long as they stay healthy, they keep the same core guys, I think that this team can come in that 5th spot. Coming in that 4th spot, we have the team that finished 2nd last year, and I think they got lucky to finish 2nd last year because to me they were not that great, and that is the Seattle Sounders. They did lose Ladero this offseason, and they haven't really brought anybody in yet at the time of this video. But it is Seattle. I feel like no matter what, they make the playoffs. I think that they've maybe missed the playoffs once. I could be wrong on that. But they're always good, and I think that they will continue to do well, and they will make the playoffs. But I think that they come in that number 4 spot. Now, moving on to that 3rd spot there in the West, this team is moving up a position from the 4th position last year, and that is the Houston Dynamo. Yes, They lose Corey Baird. They might lose a couple other guys, but they are bringing back Sebastian Ferreira. I think if they keep him because he was out on loan, that will significantly help them because he came off of a 25-goal season with the team that he was at on loan. With that being said, if he does have a performance like that and he stays and Houston keeps a good bit of their guys, Dorsey, some of the other guys, but I think that there will be some more moves. But at the time of this making, I think they will come in third here in the West. Now, this number 2 spot is the team that finished first last season, and that is St. Louis City. I think, yes, they're not going to get first place. I don't think that they can do that into 2024, and I have high hopes for them. They have kept a lot of their players. They're doing well, and they bring in Chris Durkin from DC United. I think that only helps them. They've kept a lot of their core guys, but I just can't see them having the season that they did last season in their first season. But I do still, like I said, have those high expectations for them, and I do believe that they will finish second in the West in 2024. So that leaves us with our number 1 seed there in the West. I think you all will probably know where I'm going with this because I haven't mentioned them yet. And of course, it is LAFC. They finished third last season in the conference, but I think, yes, they have lost a bunch of guys due to contracts and other things at the end of this season. They bring in Hugo Lloris as their new goalkeeper, which that is a huge signing. But because they've lost so many people, I think that they will bring in some good guys. And I think that they'll be pretty dominant, and they'll be their dominant self like they have been in recent years, but not as good as those recent years. And, well, not speaking of last season, but the seasons before that. But I do think that LAFC are going to run the West next year, coming in at that number 1 spot. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you like the content. Tell me down below what your ranking is for the Western Conference, and we will see you for the Eastern Conference video up next.